Welcome to Simple Healthy Life. Our goal is to have real, insightful discussions on topics that we find interesting. And today we have an interesting topic. I do want to put a little disclaimer, if you will, in here that we do have a lot of people who are listening who aren't following right now. It's like a preposterous number, right? It's like we have, 10% of listeners follow or something like that. I don't even know what a follow does, but I like looking at it. So,
So hit the button.
hit that. I don't know even where that button is, but hit it. If there's a button that says any kind of interaction, you should probably hit that because that does something. I don't know what it does, but
It definitely does.
but I like numbers when they.
And it'll keep us around, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of, we spend a lot of time, thinking about these things and talking to people, and we get a lot of feedback, especially like in-person feedback. We get a lot of that, but we don't get a lot of like online feedback, on the internet feedback. So yeah, please do us a favor and hit whatever buttons are in front of you right now.
Yes. You won't even get an email.
No emails. But so today we're gonna talk a little bit about courage and the specific, I guess, view of courage being like pushing through a resistance, right? How do we get better at that? Because I think at the core, a lot of people struggle with this resistance, right? Resistance to going to the gym or cooking a meal or waking up in the morning, right? I mean, this is a core problem for us. In fact, as you think and live through a life of growth, this is something that you have to figure out a solution to, right? And if there isn't a great solution, then you need to find a somewhat good one. And to be courageous is to have finesse around this, to be decent at that, right? And obviously, many of our listeners are, they are courageous because you do so many hard things. But I wanted to, you started telling me a little bit about this, MJ, from your definition, your perspective. So could you pick that up and just tell me a little bit about courage and defining that, where that comes from?
Sure. Yeah. So courage is an interesting word because it gets thrown in like when you're a little kid and all of a sudden it has to be this big grandiose thing, right? But at its core, courage comes from the Latin, meaning from the heart. So courage is really about acting in a way that is from the heart. Now, what it's boiled down to in the way that we're going to define it today for everybody that's involved and everybody that's listening is courage is the ability to push through resistance. Meaning, well, I'll give you the neuroscience real quick. Something happens in your brain. Your amygdala goes off. Fear, uncertainty, self-doubt, resistance. Your ability to push through that and take the next action is courage. Okay, that's how we're defining it for everybody today. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so now that we know what courage is, it's the ability to push through resistance. All of a sudden, we go, oh man, I act with courage all the time. Mm-hmm. There's resistance in my day every day. And counterpoint, I work on the skill of avoidance all the time. I let that resistance push me in a direction that I, from the heart, don't really want to go. Example, I want to be the person that gets up in the morning and goes and gets my workout in. Some days, yes. Some days, no. I want to be the person that can go and have that difficult conversation. Some days, yes. Some days, no. Does this make sense?
Totally.
So this is courage. The challenge that we have is the brain is always learning. it's going to make it easier for you to act and push through resistance the more times you act and push through resistance. And it's going to make it easier for you to train the skill of avoidance the more time you spend training the skill of avoidance. Overall, if you don't think about it this way and you just avoid, you've been training that skill a lot. And it feels almost like who you are. And then someone says, you got to act with courage. Yeah, nope, can't do it. I don't do that. I'm not a courageous person. I mean, how many times have we heard that? Now we get 1 million reps. And once you've gone down the path of avoidance for as long as you have to start recognizing it and becoming aware that all it is a learning pattern. And you can decide today, I want to train the skill of courage. And right now, as soon as you make that distinction for yourself, because again, it's from the heart, your brain will start to say, okay, I need to be working on pushing through resistance. And these resistances don't have to be grandiose things.
Nope.
They can be any time you individually feel resistance to say, I have a choice right now. What does it cost me, short-term and long-term, to avoid this resistance? And when you start to say, what does it cost me short-term and long-term to avoid this resistance? You start going, it costs a lot.
Well, certainly it costs more than you could even comprehend because, as you say, we're constantly learning. We're constantly, I say, constantly practicing something, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And so as you practice avoiding even just minor things, avoiding taking out the trash or doing the dishes or whatever, you get better at all types of avoidance subtly, right? And that to me is huge. You know, I've talked about it plenty of times, but you know, I work on food exposures with people. So exposing people to food real time that they are legitimately fearful of. Many people listening don't have that experience, but there are people who are legitimately fearful of foods. And that could be genetic, could be whatever, but they get in front of a food and it's a panic, fear response. And I started, over the years, I started actually labeling their ability, myself, their ability to go into the exposure confidently in some way, confidently being assured of themselves that it's going to be somewhat okay. It might be very unpleasant, but they're assured of themselves. I started labeling that as courageous. You know, I would start to tell people, wow, that was very courageous of you to go and do that. And you know, some of them are kind of like smile as if it's like, you know, a joke or like I'm making a big deal out of it. But in fact, for them, it is courageous, and they get better with exposures. They get really good at being courageous. And then it's interesting. I work with someone long enough and they get courageous in that area. Then they're doing all sorts of courageous things. I see it all the time. It's people who are like really, really avoidant, really anxious. And then all of a sudden they work on this small little thing, exposure to food. Big thing to them, small to us, right? Because we don't have the same experience. But then they get so good at doing these other things. I'm like, wow, that's incredible. It's incredible to see the transference of skills, which I think definitely exists.
Definitely exists. And remember, it's because, and the reason it seems so like interesting and silly and like relatable but yet unrelatable is it's from the heart, right? So it's so individualized. Right? That's something they were acting with courage because they have a legitimate fear, concern, worry, resistance towards this thing that you are asking them to do. And then they push through. They took the next action, right? Whatever that is. So often when we have this resistance, we're so good at building, I think you said it best sometime, like we build this trap for ourselves. We build this maze for ourselves. We build this prison for ourselves. And like, we'll just use the gym example. Like, I want to get up in the morning and go to the gym. I'm like, okay, well, what does it matter? You're laying in bed, you're like, duh, I haven't gone all week. What does it matter? And it's like we layer on top justification or reasons or even false reasons. But that's just because we've been so good at building the skill of avoiding. We're great at it. We have all of the reasons, all of the scenarios, all of the times that we didn't do it, and we just keep adding on. But now we know. Now we can literally sit here, and by the time this podcast ends, I want you to be able to sit there and say, I want to be able to label the resistance so that I can take one step, just one step in the right direction. And it'll come up 5, 6, 7 times a day. Like, really. I mean, most of us, we're kind of on autopilot throughout the day. You know, maybe there's a little bit here, a little bit there. And, you know, we're going to use the food example. Maybe it's like, you know, I did feel resistance around making dinner tonight. So I just went out to eat. I know, and maybe that's not bad for you, but maybe it's a thing where, like, from the heart, you said to yourself, I want to be making dinner tonight because I feel like it's better for me. I can control what's in it, whatever the reasons are. I want to save money, whatever your reasons are. But then you didn't. So what did you do? The next time you're faced with this resistance, it's even easier to say, no, it's good. I actually know I can go to here and get this thing. And, you know, but from your own perspective, your own heart, it's not the choice you were supposed to make.
Yeah, I actually really like that from the heart kind of example, because I think that many of the actions that we take are hard to truly label on the surface level, right? Someone I'm working with who tries a food hard to them, they could go and say, hey, I tried a cucumber to someone else, and that person says, well, I eat cucumbers every day.
Yeah.
Right. And so for them, that's no problem. Or, you know, in your example, going and grabbing takeout, it isn't necessarily bad, but is it not great if it is kind of avoidant thing? You kind of had this idea, you had this plan to say, I really want to make something tonight. I know I'm going to be a little resistant, but I want to push through. I want to try this new recipe. I want to challenge myself. And then last second you say, I'm going to go do takeout. And so you can't actually look at an action and define it fairly, right? And so when you say from the heart, I mean, what is inner work, right? Inner work is aligning literally what's inside and just focusing on that, right? Because that's important. If I'm feeling avoidant to something, even if it's I don't know, maybe I'm still going to the gym, but maybe I'm really avoidant of like this squat, and I know I need to do the squat. I know that it's going to be good for me, but you know, I'm talking with 100 out of 100 people, and they're saying, "Oh, you went to the gym. That's great. Like you did a good thing." And here I am. I could even fake it. I could be like, "Yeah, you know what? I did do a good thing. I went to the gym. That's good." But at the end of the day, the inner world was suggesting that, okay, well, you know, you really avoided this thing. Only you know. And that's like what inner work is doing in action with the inner intent that it's like the inner intent being good, right? Whatever, you know, good, kind of a broad word here, but the inner intent being good. And I think that a lot of the times we feign that. It's so easy to. I mean, you could go your whole life. I can't remember if I was talking to you or someone. I think I was talking to someone else. I think it was I was talking with a friend. But you can go your whole life appearing humble and be totally opposite to that on the inside, right? Because hey, if I said to you all the things that a humble person would say, but I say it out of vanity or whatever, you know, the opposite of humility is, well, that's not really being humble, but it is appearing humble, and no one would know the difference.
Right.
And that's a trick. It's a trick because we think that that's okay. Because if I'm externally appearing humble, then I'm getting all the benefits of humility. I'm getting all the social benefits of humility, because there are plenty. I mean, I think that's why someone would do it.
Sure.
Right? It's very charismatic. It's very like social. It's an approved kind of disposition.
A social norm.
Yeah. But if you're not actually humble, you're not actually working on that, then you're faking it and you're living a lie. And that is never good.
No, no. And it manifests in so many different ways. So let's go to the big ones. Okay. So we have resistance. This resistance can be, we'll start at the big one. We'll just go with fear. Okay. We're not afraid to go to the gym, but
some people are.
Some people are. Okay. Well, we'll use a different example. Here, ready? Spider runs across the table. You're afraid. I'm not. I know it's not see what I did there? You're afraid. I know it's not poisonous. And it doesn't creep me out. I reach over, I pick up the spider, I walk it outside, I put it outside. No courage needed because I wasn't afraid. Now, you do it. That's courageous.
Totally.
Because you were afraid and you still took the action. Maybe I coached you up. Hey, listen, it's not dangerous. They don't even bite. It's a daddy long legs. It's just going to feel a little weird in your hand. Use both hands, cup it. We can take it outside. All of the talking I'm doing is only helping me feel better. You eventually decide, okay, I can do it. I'm doing it. That's acting with courage. Now, what happens when in the brain is what I want to get into. Second you see that spider coming around, your amygdala goes off. Bing, fires. And this is where that fully transferable skill you talked about, this is what I want people to understand. Your amygdala fires and it goes off huge. Maybe you're fearful for your life, right? It might as well be a tarantula. You avoid it, run away, you're gone, the spider's still here. Takes you 10, 15 minutes to calm down. You literally went into fight or flight, ran away. You practice the skill of avoiding. Next time you see that spider, guess what happens? Your amygdala goes, Same reaction, if not worse. The very first time you go, maybe with a little coaching, maybe a little help, maybe with something, hey, Brian, this is what it is. I want you to look at it. Same thing you do with the food avoidance. The next time that happens, your amygdala still goes off, but it's proven it doesn't go off nearly as large, nearly as extreme. And every time you do this, you're conditioning yourself to deal with fear. You can label that resistance any way you want. It doesn't have to be fear. It can be worry. It can be anxiety. It can be concern. It can be anything that's causing your amygdala to go off. And as you practice the skill of courage, you become courageous. And so many people, I always do this, and I'll just do it again for the audience, pretend we're talking to kids. So many kids, I say, hey, is courage a skill or is it something you're just born with? So many times I get the answer, oh, it's just something you're born with. Mm-hmm. And we got to start changing that narrative. And I hope we're starting to change that narrative right now, because ultimately you just get you get so many reps each day. And when you don't recognize what's going on, and you go into that social norm that courage is only for the courageous, or courage is only when you're convincing yourself to jump out of an airplane, or courage is only X, Y, and Z, you've trained the skill of avoiding so well that you start to believe the things that are not true.
Well, here's the big problem is that our brains are prediction machines. And so it's not exactly wrong for your brain to predict that you're not a courageous person, right? To go into this prediction, this identity kind of mess. And for us to say, well, probability says I don't act courageously. But obviously, you know that I disdain that thought. That's just who I am, right? Because it's not true. The prediction says probably unlikely to be true, but it's a prediction, it's a probability, how you might act based on how you have already acted. So it's like a semi-truth in the sense that, okay, well, if you've never done anything very courageous or you avoid a lot of different things, then you're not. I guess it would be unfair to describe yourself as a courageous person. But the fact is that you don't have to be a courageous person. The whole identity layer is not necessary in like any part of our lives. And so it's just like this tricky game played by the ego. And so anytime you go into, I'm not this, I'm not that, I mean, just remove it from the equation. But our brains are still predicting. And in the spider example, the brain has already predicted that it will lead to bad things, right? And when you actually engage with the spider and you pick it up and you have a successful event with that, which if you're deathly afraid of it and you don't die, that's a success if you pick up the spider. Granted, if you're just kind of afraid that it will bite you and it does, well, your brain is going to predict it's actually going to strengthen that response, right? And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about like how could we methodically approach courage, because there is a way.
Definitely.
And I know that you have a way, and I'll just reveal my way briefly. So because the brain is a prediction machine, if you have something that you feel resistance to, it could be going to the gym. I'm going to use going to the gym just because it's easy and we use it a lot. Going to the gym. Okay, well, how distressed are you feeling about this? And distress being, how much of a barrier do we have? For many different reasons. You could be fearful of social judgment. You could be fearful of ineptitude. I don't know how to navigate the gym. You can be fearful of the pain, the soreness or whatever it is. You can be fearful of a lot of different things. So if you really wanted to approach this methodically and do your brain a favor and help this process along, what you could do is rate this on a scale. You could say, how distressed am I? Well, this is pretty distressing. I might call it a 20 out of 100, right? It's not the most distressing thing on the planet. Like if I'm deathly afraid of skydiving and that's 100 out of 100, well, this feels like about a 20. Okay, fair. Now what we have to do is we have to expose ourselves to this. You know that you have to do the thing to be courageous. You know that pushing through resistance pretty much in all cases is good for us. Doing things that are effortful because they are effortful, being the thing you don't want to do, that is just healthy for our brain. You need to have that. Find me a person who only engages in pleasurable things and has a good life. It just does not exist, right? So you have to have this element of engaging in effortful tasks to live a life well lived. And so you say, well, okay, I'm going to go do this thing. You go to the gym, it plays out the way it plays out. You come back and you re-rate. How bad was that really? Okay, that was really like a 10 out of 100. And what that does is the act of you observing that decrease in distress. So it went from a 20 to a 10 out of 100. This actually helps your brain change the prediction. And so it will next time have a more accurate prediction as to like how much resistance this is. And if you did this every time, what you would notice, this is basically a guarantee. I see it all the time. I see it every day because I do this with the food, right? Is every day that number would start to decrease, right? There might be some days where it increases a little bit because if I'm afraid of social judgment and I go to the gym and someone judges me like outwardly, well, yeah, your brain predicted right and affirmed your fears and whatever, and there you go. But you continue to expose yourself. You continue to gain, strength and courage and whatever through the process. You eventually find that going to the gym comes down to a 0. It's not distressing at all. You go, there's some resistance, but you push through it anyways. It's not as bad as what you think. And that at the end of the day is almost always true, that is never as bad as we think. Our brain over predicts the distress from things.
Yeah, to keep us safe.
Yeah.
It's like a learned response.
Yeah.
So let's go with a little more. Let's go with this concept that will start the process of helping people understand that they can do it. Okay? We tackled a big one, fear. We're afraid of social judgment. We're afraid of the spider. These are times when we're going to have to understand that we have the ability to do it. A tough conversation, fear holding us back. But let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. You're just uncomfortable. Just uncomfortable. You know what? I want to go to the gym. I like the gym. The gym's not bad. But my bed's more comfortable. Mm-hmm. So no one would know. Like you said, like it's only from the heart. It's only me individually being like, no, I want to get up and go do this thing. So what does it cost me not to do it? In this scenario, not much. But I know I didn't do it. And so the next day, I know I didn't do it again. And then the next day, I know I didn't do it again. And now I start to waver from some of that honor code that we talked about in the last one. I start to kind of waver away from the things that are important to me. And let's just extrapolate it out. Let's go from one end of the end to the spectrum the next day. You know what? It's more comfortable in my bed than it is for getting up for work on time. It just is. It always is, for sure. Mm-hmm. So Monday, I just don't do it. I just call in sick. I'm not sick, just it's more comfortable to lay here. And then next Monday, I'm like, you know what? Same thing. And I've gotten so good at justifying or training the skill of avoidance that now, guess what? I'm going to have one of those uncomfortable conversations. And not because I want to. Because someone else is going to have to train the skill of courage to say, listen, I could have talked to Mike. He's not coming to work on time. He's not coming to work on Mondays. What's going on? Nothing. I'm just great at training the skill of avoidance. And it's this slope, it's the scale, it's this whole thing, but it comes down to, are you acting with the heart? Are you acting in accordance to the way you want to? And remember, we're not saying that you have to eat the cucumber or go to the gym or pick up the spider. It's essentially all comes down to you. Learning that you can change and train and work on the skill of courage whenever you want. Using the skills you just itemized, writing it down. Write these words. I feel resistance towards. And then insert whatever it is. Today, I chose the courageous response by X. One small step. It's gonna get easier. It's gonna get easier. It's just going to get easier every single time. And it's because at its core level, and this is the part that everybody should take away from this, and I'm making this point, I hope you understand, it's because your brain is always learning. You're teaching it every time. By the decisions you make, you feel the resistance, and then you decide one or the other. Is it more costly in the short term to do what I'm trying to do? Is it more costly in the long term to do what I'm trying to do? Or is it more costly in the short term, in the long term, to avoid whatever it is that's important to me? That's courage.
Yeah. So you have to define truly like what is important to you, right? Because again, call back to the honor podcast that we did. There has to be some code that you have, some higher aim that you have, right? Because if you don't have that, well, then it's okay to avoid the thing, because it's okay to avoid the effortful things because there's no aim at all. Why are you going to do anything effortful if you're not well aware of why it is that you want to do that in the first place? Right. And so, yeah, challenging yourself to kind of take that next step and do the effortful task, right? And know that, we're all avoidance. It's the slippery slope about avoidance is that you can't put off effort. You can't get rid of effort and resistance and those uncomfortable feelings. You just put it off. You just put it off till later, right? So in the example of like regular movement or exercise, you're putting off that feeling now, which isn't all that bad. It's bad, I get it. We all get it. We all know that it's not the most fun thing on the planet. But you put off that now, and 10 years down the line, you have way bigger problems because they've all built up, and now you've got health issues and this and that. And trust me, that's way worse. And the difficult conversation, you put that off and off and off and off, and eventually now you have the worst of all conversations blowing up in your face. And so don't minimize. This is a big thing that people do, is that they minimize the now. Right? The now is all you have. The now is the most important thing. So while you could mental gymnastics and justify that, okay, this one gym workout or this one recipe that I cook or this one healthy snack I prepare, this doesn't mean anything in the, in the grand scheme. I think it's a fair justification. You can, it's like, it's one workout, right? Or it's one this, or it's one that. It doesn't really mean anything from those like more like numbers perspective, right? But it certainly means a hell of a lot to you, and it certainly defines in a big way how you're going to act in the future, right? Which is the point. If you act as a coward right now, well, you are strengthening that part of yourself. And chances are, if you act like a coward today, you're going to act like a coward tomorrow. But if you act like a courageous person, right? And maybe that's a good way to think about it. What would the courageous person do? What would the person who I aim to be do? How would they act, right? How would my role model act? Role models are kind of important too, or because it's good to have a vision of how someone would act in this scenario, because let's face it, you don't know how to act. We know we're all winging it. We don't all know how to act in each scenario. So if you practice being courageous in this moment and stop minimizing it, because it's a big thing, it's bigger than you know, well, maybe you'll actually do it. Maybe you'll actually get better at that resistance, right?
You will. You definitely will. And the cool part is you do get the immediate gratification. This is one of those areas where people want immediate gratification, and you get it. You push through it, you go to the gym, you leave the gym, you feel good.
Yeah.
You push through the resistance, you have the tough conversation, and maybe it didn't go so good. At the end of it, you go, oh, I feel good. I did it. I did the thing. And when you do the thing, it snowballs. And you get the immediate gratification. You get them both, really. You get to go back to sleep, or you get to push through and do the thing. And just know that it's not inherent. It's deeply personal. I mean, it comes from your own heart. It comes from your own desires, and you get immediate gratification for it. And if you don't, for some reason, because it's a thing that takes a little longer to get some gratification for, it's coming. But if you keep training the skill of avoidance, you recognize that the people around you will start to recognize that you kind of train the skill of avoidance. Your physical being will change as you train the skill of avoidance. You'll become less apt to do things that are hard as you train the skill of avoidance, and you'll notice your world shrink. You'll notice your bubble shrink. You'll notice your circle shrink. You'll notice, guess what? That bed, it's the only place that I don't feel any discomfort, and guess where I am all day. Mm-hmm. That's where it leads to, but it doesn't have to.
Yeah. Nothing meaningful comes in the pursuit of just pleasure at all times, right? You actually can't. I don't think that you can. I've thought about this, and I guess I'm curious. Is there any meaning in pleasurable things? Can you have like a meaningful existence doing mostly just pleasurable things?
We definitely have to have them sprinkled in.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
And there's got to be an aim and a goal, but no, you can't. You got to have. You got to have both ends of the spectrum. Yeah. You got to understand what it's like to sleep outside in a tent before you can understand how good it feels, how good it really feels to sleep in a nice cushy bed with nice sheets. Yeah. If you're just always doing the good thing, always doing the thing that's the easy thing, even that doesn't feel good anymore.
Right. You start to lose. You're gonna feel really really depressed. I mean, that's also dopaminergic, right? You do all these like kind of cheap dopamine tests, and you're gonna be below your baseline almost all the time. So you're gonna feel neurochemically imbalanced for sure. But yeah, I don't see it. I don't see someone being like, "Yep, I get a lot of purpose out of sleeping. I get a lot of purpose out of eating ice cream." You know?
Right. No, you're right.
Like, it's great. It's not saying that those things aren't great, but they lack the thing that will drive us, you know, and to truly resign to the fact that you have to have that discomfort, that effortful thing. I mean, that to me has been very helpful as just an overall kind of like motto. It's like, I'm not aiming to feel good at all the time. I know that there's going to be plenty of times that I'm saying, okay, I'm just going to do this thing because it kind of sucks, right? I mean, you live it, the cold, right? I mean, that sucks. It always sucks. There's never a time that's not pleasurable, but people find, and that's one thing, so many people find plenty of meaning and purpose in that, right? It's a different feeling than sitting on the couch versus sitting in the cold. You're sitting, but one certainly can provide you meaning. One can provide you purpose and a path. But sitting on the couch can't. It can't do that.
Yeah, you're totally right. And remember, it doesn't matter what our examples are because you'll know them. Mm-hmm. You'll know them because it'll feel from the heart. That little ping in the back of your brain will go off. Wherever you feel it. Maybe it's the back of my brain. I don't know where I feel it, but I know it's there. And you'll know when you're doing it, and you'll know when you chose not to, and only you will. And it's the example we gave with the spider. I'm not afraid. You're afraid. I'm not scared. You're scared. but like, it's just there for you. And I hope that this helped. I hope that this was an opportunity for people to kind of hear, listen, understand that this is real, and it's an option for you to train the skill because it is a skill.
Well said.
Sweet. Well, if you like this, send it and hit the like button, for crying out loud. We can't.
Is there a like button?
There's got to be there's a follow button.
There's
hit
some
the follow
button.
button.
There's some button. Just hit the button.
Just hit the button.